Next section. Purpose of this book. Subsection. To keep you vigilant. This book is not about the battle between the ardent worshippers of Yogi Bhajan, deniers of the abuse, and people within 3HO who see the need for acknowledgement, reparation, and change. Neither is this book about the issues with the current reparation and reconciliation programs. The reason is simple. As long as the enormity of the abuse and malpractice remains underestimated, any remedial initiative will also be inadequate and insufficient. Nor is this book written to keep you away from yoga. Scientific studies provide evidence that yoga practice can have a positive impact on brain health. And a healthy brain is what you need when you choose a spiritual practice, a teacher, and an organization for guidance.
Do not leave your brain behind, and always remain vigilant,
says lawyer and investigator of sexual abuse in spiritual communities Carol Murchison. By highlighting the pain, suffering, and shady practices in 3HO, Under the Yoga Mat aims to show you why you should be wary of teachers and organizations who claim they know what is good for you better than you do. Trust your own sensing. Training programs that have sleep deprivation built into their schedule and starve you are influencing you in an unhealthy way. States of euphoria numb your critical thinking. Next subsection. Call for rectification. This book is written because it is time to adjust the world's perception of this not-so-saintly man and not-so-holy organization. Part of the public injustice inflicted could be righted by amending the 2005 resolution of the U.S. Congress and changing the name of the New Mexico Highway to one that honors the survivors rather than the perpetrator. Next subsection. Inform those who want to know. The information shared by current leaders about the wrongdoings is shamefully limited. At best they will say,
"There was abuse. We acknowledged it. And we will help those who suffered harm."
That is far from enough. When it dawned on us that they would not do more anytime soon, we decided to write this book to fill the gap in the truth-telling part of the healing process. Newcomers, practitioners, and teachers have the right to know so they can answer the question, can I separate the teacher from the teachings in a well-informed way? Everyone should be able to choose to look at the whole story, the light and the dark side of it, or not. Teachers or trainers who keep people from this knowledge show how the cult nature is still active in them. Since mid-2020, I have spent hundreds of hours listening to and reading survivors' stories. In 2021, I summarized and structured what I learned on abuse in KundaliniYoga.com. The site and this book compile fragments of publicly available testimonies from children and adults who lived in different periods and locations. Together they provide a broad picture of the atmosphere and culture of 3HO. The selection is made to give an overview of the extent and diversity of the crimes committed and the damages incurred. We cannot represent the lives of thousands of people over 50 years in one book. Let this be an invitation for many more books to follow. Under the Yoga Mat shows how Bhajan used his yoga, lifestyle, and religion as a cover-up for his criminal activities, and to create conditions to manipulate, use, and abuse his devotees and their children to his advantage. Bhajan's methods and tools carry the potential to control people. It is that simple. Trigger warning. Reading this book may be confronting and can be re-traumatizing for those who were or are still involved in high-demand groups or cultic organizations. If that is your case, make sure there are people you can reach out to if you get triggered. Contact a trauma-informed and preferably a cult-informed therapist who can assist you. Next subsection. Piercing the myth. Yogi Bhajan told his followers they were privileged and special human beings. They were lighthouses for humanity, more conscious and enlightened than normal people. Many 3HO members and Kundalini yogis still strongly identify with that image. They believe they possess the exquisite and unique technology, lifestyle, and values to bring salvation and solve all ills. Blinded by that important quest, many are unable or unwilling to see what went on for decades under that holy veil. Bhajan said,
"When everyone else goes down, we remain upright. We are the saviors." The spiritual warriors. The chosen ones. The pure ones.
Today, there are still teacher-trainers who continue to preach the specialness of this path and how it is different and superior to other paths. Reading this book may pierce this myth. It may reveal that instead of being more aware than others, I count myself as an ex-member of this cult, were more asleep than others. Letting go of a cult identity is ultimately liberating, but can be extremely confronting, frightening, painful, re-traumatizing, and complex. It should be done under the guidance of specialized counselors and therapists. By retelling the survivors' stories and calling Yogi Bhajan, a cult leader, under the yoga mat deliberately scratches the wounds to drain the pus, which is very uncomfortable, unpleasant, and painful but necessary. Next subsection. Cult nature of 3HO. Cult expert Dr. Stephen Hassan developed a model that helps to evaluate cases of exploitation, mind control, thought reform, and undue influence. It is based on 4 components: control of behavior, information, thoughts, and emotions, and is therefore called the BITE model. I performed a BITE analysis of 3HO at his request, using my experience of being showered with survivor stories for 3 years. It was amazing how easily I could map the 3HO situation to his model, as if he developed it for 3HO. The results make it difficult to deny that 3HO was a cult when Yogi Bhajan was still alive. Alexandra Stein argues in her 3HO childhood report that 3HO was and still is a cult.
Note that after his death, the group has apparently loosened up and may now be moving away from at least some of the elements listed. However, though there have been some incremental improvements, many of the same elements of neglect, abuse, coercion, and isolation from the mainstream, as noted in this report, have persisted, at least until 2019.
By describing various aspects of life in 3HO, Under the Yoga Mat is of interest to people who want to understand or research high-demand groups and cultic organizations. It will also help readers to recognize situations of undue influence and mind control more quickly.